Hey my friends, it's Brandy and here's a quick tutorial on this little letterboard. It should be noted that all the measurements I'm going to give you today can be altered to fit the piece that you're building and the size you want. So I'm starting with a 1x8 pine piece from Lowe's. I've got some trim 1x2s and some little 3/8 by 3/8 dowels. Titebond glue is my go-to and a pin nailer by Ryobi. First thing I'm going to do is measure my length. I want this to be 10 inches, so I mark my piece, I use my square to get that line nice and straight, and then I'll go ahead and cut this. I'm still on the balcony, so I'm using my Hart 7 1/4 inch miter saw. It does not slide, so I have to flip it to cut the other side. I'm actually making 2 of these, so I'm going to cut a second one here. Next, I'm going to go ahead and cut the frame and talk to some of my neighbors walking by. And I'm not doing any fancy miter cuts here. I'm just going to mark the length of my board and cut my frame to that size. I really like the rustic look with these note boards, letter boards, so I don't do any miter cuts with this. Now I'm marking the other side. I like to do the 2 longest edges first. And then I set those up against my piece so that I can get a correct measurement for the bottom and the top pieces. And that's it for the frame. It's super easy to make. Now I'm going to go ahead and cut these dowels, and I'm just going to make them the width of the board. So I lay them down and cut the first one, and because of the length, this is 10 inches, I'm going to do 4 dowels. And you can totally do whatever you want. If you want more dowels so there's more room for words, you can totally do that. This is a smaller board, and I felt like 4 was perfect. A lot also depends on the size of letters that you buy or tiles that you buy. I'll link the ones that I got below, but these particular tiles are only 3/4 of an inch by 3/4 of an inch. Next, I'm making a little spacer block to help me set these apart and make sure that they're all evenly spaced, and I'm going to use that to measure. I'm using Loctite glue for this part because it's a quick grab, and I use my spacer and my pin nailer to secure each one of those dowels. I'm going to do the second board here. And if you have a square, it really does help to line these dowels up perfectly. You've got your spacer, and then the square gets it nice and straight. And that's it for the assembly part of the board. Now I'm going to go ahead and spray paint these white. I'm putting them in a box just to contain some of the overspray, and I hit them once all the way around and let them dry. And then I'm going to take a light sanding block to them and repaint again. These Gator sanding sponges are one of my favorites. This one is 120 grit, and I'm just going to knock off some of the high points and dust there, and then give it one more spray to get a nice, smooth, even finish. And I am using Rustoleum white satin, and I'll let that go ahead and set up and dry. While that's drying, I'm going to go ahead and stain my frame pieces with some Rustoleum stain. It's called Barrel Brown, and it's got kind of a gray hint to it. I wanted a little bit more brown, but I'm happy with how these turned out. Once these are all stained, I'll go ahead and let those dry for about an hour, and then I'll give them a nice wipe and then glue and nail them to the board. I'm using some Titebond Quick and Thick here for this portion, and I'm just using my pin nailer again to attach the long sides first, and then my top and my bottom pieces. One thing to note is after I apply the glue and then I put the frame piece on, I do move it back and forth a little bit to kind of spread the glue out since I'm not doing that with my finger. And now I'm doing the second one, and that is all there is to it, you guys. This is a really fun project, makes a great gift, and is super easy to assemble. As usual, I'll have all the information about products I'm using in the description below. Don't forget to give me a little thumbs up if you like this video, if you want to see more. I really appreciate it, and thanks for following along.